Howdy, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Card Blitz. Today, we are the football card guys, joined by Aaron and Royce Waxenfelter of Pro Football Retro and Viking Wax Press. We'll include their links in the show notes. But we're here to talk about notable nicknamed defenses of the NFL. And that could be from the dawn of time to present day NFL. Guys, how's it going?
Great.
Good, good.
Yeah.
All right, well then let's just get into a little show and tell, and then we'll do the defenses. That work for y'all?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds good.
All right,
We,
who wants to go
who's gonna
first?
do? You want me to go first on show and tell?
Okay,
Yep.
twist my arm.
So I'm gonna tie in my show and tell a little bit to my defenses I'm gonna be showing. So I wore my Super Bowl winning Russell Wilson t-shirt. So I'm gonna show off a couple Russell Wilson cards because I was going through trading card database and realized I've got 64 different Russell Wilson cards. So I'm going to show a couple of my favorites. I've got this die cut Rookies and Stars, which is a pretty cool one. And then I've got this is a Strata from 2014. So Topps had some kind of cool cards back before 2015 when they kind of stopped doing they lost their license for NFL. They had some really cool cards back in those young teen eras. So wanted to show off a couple Russell Wilsons because he's my biggest uh, guy I have in all of my collection. I've got more cards of Russell Wilson than anybody else. So
Cool.
Even more than Jim Zorn.
yeah, believe it or not, I've got more. Yeah, just a ton of Russell Wilson. I was able to get a ton of them for like a nickel each, so I picked up a big stack.
Nice. How about you, Aaron? What do you have?
Well, I got the local card shop. I got this John Havlicek card for $2.
Nice.
And what I like is this is his final card produced. And I think I've talked about it before in previous episodes, but I like the final card because it shows their whole career. And on this card, it has a little cartoon that says he had played more games than anybody else in the NBA at that time. He played about 1,300 games. Now there's tons of them. He's like 29th on the list now.
Wow.
But at that time, he had played more than anybody else. So I love this card. I do have a couple. We were gonna do a couple defenses, but we're only doing one. But I have a couple cool bills from the Bermuda Triangle era that are off-brand cards. This is a McDonald's. I don't know if anybody out there collects McDonald's, but I really like them. They're a little bit oversized, but they'll have players like this is Lucius Sanford. Topps never produced a card of him, even though he was a starter for 9 years. Good player. Topps never made one. And there's a few guys like that on the McDonald's set. And then on the back, it's a nice big format to talk a lot about the player and give a lot of stats that are clear. So I like the larger size because it kind of helps my old eyes. And then I have one more Bills from that Bermuda Triangle defense. This is Isaiah Robertson, his only Bills card. They made a
Hmm.
bunch of Rams cards of him in the 70s because he was an all-pro linebacker for the Rams, but this is the only Bills card they made of him. And it's a Bell's Market, so it's a local market kind of thing that you got when you bought groceries. So those are my cards that I wanted to show off for show and tell.
Nice. Well, I'll follow up with a 1997 Pacific
Ooh.
Invincible card of this Mike Allstott guy, aka the A Train, and I really like the fact that it's kind of like it's got this acetate that's also mixed in with all the bling bling and the old
Yeah.
creamsicle Buccaneers uniforms from back in the day.
Love
And,
Nice.
those creamsicles. Yeah.
yeah, the retro look. And then also found this Ricky Williams rookie card from
Hmm.
1999. I think it's Ionics. And then
Yeah.
I think this is an insert called Astronomics.
Cool.
But it's kind of all sorts of shiny bling bling looking card, and just kind of talks about like Ricky's college career stats and how he led the NCAA the last 2 years in rushing. And well, we know he went on to New Orleans, became a Saint. Him and Ditka got married on a cover of a magazine, and then later on, Ricky did his thing in Miami. So those are my cards for show and tell, guys.
Cool. Cool,
That's really
cool. Yeah,
cool.
thanks.
Well, I guess now that we're going to talk about these notable nickname defenses, we should talk about the parameters that we set for this. And if I remember correctly, we said we couldn't choose our own favorite NFL team,
Right.
and had to be a defense that had a notable nickname to it. And then we're going to talk about was it some of the Hall of Fame players or some of the impact players on that defense, and what helped make that nickname happen, right?
Yep. And I'll
Okay.
go ahead and get us started if that's cool.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome.
okay, so the defense I chose so far, nobody from this defense is in the Hall of Fame because it's a fairly recent defense of the Seattle defense from 2010 through 2020 was known as the Legion of Boom, the LOB defense. So I chose them because they're one of my favorite all-time defenses. I'm growing up here in the West. We're kind of our secondary Seahawks fans by proxy. So we get to see a lot of Seahawks games. Those years, especially that 2013 year where they went to the Super Bowl, just an excellent team all around, and then a great defense. So the LOB had 6 consecutive winning seasons, 5 playoff seasons in a row with at least one win in the playoffs, 3 division titles, 2 NFC championships, and a Super Bowl win. And between 2012 and 2015, those 4 years, they led the NFL in scoring defense and fewest points allowed. And they also tied the Bears in 2013 for having the only defense to win in fewest points allowed, scoring defense, and oh man, what's the other? There was another category. So sorry, I'll have to get back to you on that. But there was one or other category that they kind of tied that daunting 85 Bears D in. So they're really considered one of the maybe top 3 defenses ever to play the game. So I'll kind of go through, just show some of the major players. I've got 5 guys, 6 guys here that were the main guys in the rotation. And I'll start with a polarizing player, Richard Sherman, who ended up not getting a lot of passes thrown his way after his first few years because he was such a ball hawk. So I've got this is a 2016 Panini Limited, nice thicker stock card. But I thought that was a cool card of Richard Sherman. And then I've got a 2018 Panini Unparalleled of Earl Thomas the third. Earl Thomas was awesome safety for them. Really good player. I like that card too. It's very sparkly. And then I have a 2025 Legends of the Gridiron Tops. So this Tops has their license back now, so they can put the logo on and everything. So this is one of the newer insert subsets, and this is Cam Chancellor. So Cam was awesome for them too. Him and Earl Thomas at safety were pretty good. He was a defensive back, but he played like a linebacker. I mean, you thought he was a linebacker almost. Um, then speaking of linebackers, the uh, Bobby Wagner, most people probably recognize Bobby Wagner because he played for so many years at such a high level. Definitely one of the probably top 5 linebackers ever. If you look at especially stats, he is awesome. He's on the Commanders now, right? I believe
Yes, sir.
this year. So,
He's free agent right now.
Oh,
oh, okay. Last
last
season he was on
season,
the
last
Commanders.
season, right?
Yeah. So anyway, Bobby Commander definitely, or Bobby Wagner definitely a great one for sure. And then there were a couple of supporting guys. Brandon Browner, he was actually a starter on the other corner outside of Richard Sherman. Brandon Browner was really good too. He didn't have quite the longevity that the other ones have. This is a tops. I'm sorry, no, this one is, yeah, 2012 tops, which I kind of like that design too. Most of them are actually upright, but this one, I like the landscape. And then I've got a KJ Wright red, white, and blue Panini 2020 Prism. So this KJ Wright was a linebacker as well, and he had a really good like five or six seasons in there where he was top dog too. So along with him and Bobby Wagner together. So really good defense, super fun to watch. They were just pretty dominant there for about a decade. So I think that's about it. Well, I guess I should mention some other guys too, because they had some other players on that defense that maybe weren't the core part of the Legion of Boom, but they had guys like Michael Bennett, Walter Thurman, Byron Maxwell, Frank Clark, Bruce Irvin, Jeremy Lane, Shaq Griffin, Cliff Averill, Chris Clemens, Brandon Mebane, Red Bryant. Those guys all supporting cast on the Legion of Boom defense.
And they had what, back-to-back Super Bowl appearances,
Yep.
and
Yeah,
went 1-1, right?
they beat the Broncos and then they lost to the Patriots on that last second where they should have run the ball. Yeah.
Man, I think Marshawn has some thoughts about that, right?
Yes.
What do you think about that running backs coach?
Exactly. Hand the ball off, run inside.
Run the ball. Yep.
I think about everybody was screaming that at their TV.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think everyone was shocked. But Legion of Boom, do you think Royce, 15, 20 years from now that they'll still be held in as high esteem as, they are right now with our recent memory?
I would hope so. If you look at what they did during that era, especially those 4 years between 2012 and 2015, they were the best defense in the league, period. So I hope so. I hope they do get, I think, well, definitely Bobby Wagner will make the Hall of Fame. I would imagine Richard Sherman will probably make the Hall of Fame, probably Earl Thomas. I think they'll have probably 3 or 4 guys out of that group. Camp Chancellor could too, get in the Hall of Fame. So, I hope they're esteemed come 15 years down the road from now.
Canton calling, right?
Yep,
All
that's
right,
right.
well, Aaron, how about you,
That's
man?
all right. Well, I chose a defense from further back in history. I chose the fearsome foursome from the Los Angeles Rams. And to prep for this, I actually watched a cool documentary. So if any of you, it's on YouTube. If anybody has a chance, it's made by NFL Films. It's when they were doing that Football Life, but it's the whole front four of the Rams that they kind of focus on. Um, so it's called the Fearsome Foursome. There were four main guys, but at one point, Rosie Greer, one of the defensive tackles, retired, and Roger Brown replaced him. So I have five cards, the Fearsome Fivesome, um, to go over. But he just kind of slid in. He was an All-Pro already with the Lions. They traded a bunch of draft picks for him just to plug it in and keep that front four going. Um, so yeah, this defense. They already have, I think, two of these guys are in the Hall of Fame, but very well known. And I'll just go through them one by one. So my first one is Merlin Olsen here. So this card is a 1966 Philadelphia. And Merlin Olsen, he was on the Rams only. He never played for another team. And out of his 15 years in the league, he was a Pro Bowler 14 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and that 14 times is second most in Pro Bowl in league history.
Hmm.
Um, I won't mention who was first most because it's a hated rival of mine. You might guess. Um, so he was all decade. Merlin Olsen was for the 60s and the 70s. So he made two all decade teams. Um, he's in the Hall of Fame. And then you might remember him too from post football. He was the FTD Flowers guy on commercials. He was in Little House on the Prairie. He was in Father Murphy. And then he was also a commentator. Him and Dick Enberg were NBC's kind of number one team. So really, really historical guy. One of the best defensive tackles ever, and a Hall of Famer. And in the documentary, I really like it. They kind of play him against Deacon Jones because they're so different, but they got along so well and they played together so well. But like he's from Utah, he's white bread, he's like Mr. like to the line, and Deacon Jones was kind of a wild card and kind of from the South and kind of crazy and so they both played though with a lot of aggression and a lot of fierceness. So Merlin Olsen, they were saying he's the nicest guy in the world off the field, but on the field he was kind of a monster. So that's my first one is Merlin. My second one here is Rosie Greer. This is in 1997 Upper Deck Legends. I do love these cards, so whenever I can share one I do. So Rosie Greer was All-Pro for the Giants for a few years, and then he came over to the Rams in '63. So he played 63 through 66 with the Rams on that, and he kind of solidified that fearsome foursome. Him and Olsen coming together, put that line, together, and they were just dominant. Four guys that were all great, all Pro Bowlers. So Rosie, he also had quite the life after football or beyond football. He was on the Love Boat, if you remember from the '70s. He was on all kinds of chips, and he was like a character actor on all these TV shows. He was also a singer. He was also a reverend. And one of the most interesting facts about him is he was there when Robert F. Kennedy was shot.
Hmm.
Um, he was a bodyguard, and so he was guarding one of Kennedy's relatives, and he actually helped wrestle the gun from Sirhan's hands.
Wow.
So yeah, so he was in on that, and really kind of a big part of Robert Kennedy's inner circle. Um, so yeah, very interesting, not only on the field but off the field guy, and really, really very personable guy and neat guy to watch. Then my third guy here is who they traded for and got to replace Rosie Greer when he retired. So Rosie Greer got injured. This guy, Roger Brown, came in and they didn't miss a step. This one here is a 68 tops. He's in his Lions uniform, but it's got the Rams symbol there. And he played a year for the Rams at that time, but Tops did funny things.
Mhm.
Um, so Roger Brown, he was a perennial Pro Bowler. He had how many Pro Bowls here? Six-time Pro Bowler. He was one of the first 300 pounders in the league. He was 6'5", 300 pounds, which was really rare at that time. Like Olsen was a huge guy at that time, and he was like 280, but Roger Brown was 300.
Hmm.
And he retired in 1971. He's a part of the Detroit Lions all-time team. Um, and he's the one out of the group that didn't go into anything Hollywood related. Everybody else did something there in Los Angeles to do with entertainment, but Roger Brown did not. So that guy, he's kind of the unknown one, but he should be more well known with six Pro Bowls and all-time team kind of guy and really good player. The next one is Lamar Lundy. So he was the defensive end on the other side of Deacon Jones, and Deacon Jones says he was his mentor. He had played a few years in the league already when Deacon got drafted. So Lamar Lundy, this one here is a 68 tops as well. He was on the Rams from 57 to 69. So he was the first guy. He was the oldest member of the Fearsome Foursome. And he was also drafted by the NBA. So this
Hmm.
guy was an athlete, kind of like an Antonio Gates kind of guy, where he could play basketball, he could play football. He was super tall. I think he was 6'7". He was a one-time Pro Bowler, and his first couple years in the league, he played tight end as well as defensive end. So he caught a lot of passes. He had a 16.7 yard average, so he was a good receiver.
Yeah.
Then they put him on the line full time on defense. He in his career he had three interceptions. All of them went for a pick six. So all three interceptions he returned for a TD. Uh,
Nice.
and let's see, this guy he didn't have as big of a Hollywood career as Merlin Olsen or Deacon Jones, but he played a Cyclops on Lost in Space. If you remember that old '60s show, he was
Yeah.
a big enough guy that they just put a little costume on him, and he was a Cyclops. Um, so that's Lamar Lundy. And then the last but not least, is Deacon Jones, Hall of Famer, considered maybe the best defensive end in league history, but you got your Reggie White, your Bruce Smith, but he's right up there. And he was kind of the first, he was kind of the, prototype for that rush defensive end. Um, he had multiple years it's unofficial, but he had 20 or more sacks in multiple years.
Hmm.
They've gone back and watched the video and watched the tape and added up their sacks. So until I think 1983, it's unofficial, but all told, he had, I think, 173 and a half sacks.
Wow.
So that would put him at third all time, but it's
Hmm.
unofficial. But this guy, he was amazing. He had the head slap move. He was an eight-time Pro Bowler. And in the documentary, they were saying he was the fastest guy on the team, backs,
Hmm.
cornerbacks, anybody else. He had a standing bet that anybody could beat him in a 50-yard dash, he'd give him $100, and nobody ever did. So as a defensive lineman, dude was the fastest guy on the team.
Crazy.
Yeah, and he was a Hall of Famer, like I said. He was a nightmare for the quarterbacks. He had the head slap move, and then he became a singer. If you know the song "Lowrider,"
Hmm.
he sang backup on that, and
Really?
that group War. He was in that group War
Hmm.
in the '60s, and he was also in a lot of movies and commercials and things like that. Where I first learned about him was on the Brady Bunch. He played himself on the Brady Bunch. So I watched Brady Bunch reruns as a kid. I love Brady Bunch because it's so corny and cheesy.
Hmm.
Um, they had Joe Namath on there, stuff like that. They had
Don
Davy
Drysdale.
Jones. Yeah,
Yep.
they had Davy Jones from the Monkees, and then they had Deacon Davy Jones from the Rams. And I like
Nice.
this guy better. But yeah, he's also an all-timer, part of the NFL's 75th anniversary team, part of the NFL's 100th anniversary team. Deacon Jones is an all-timer and kind of the guy everybody thinks of with the fearsome foursome, but all of them, all five of those guys are very notable.
Awesome.
So, Aaron, I was going to ask, how would you, if you could use like an adjective or two to describe, like their style of defense, how would you describe that?
They were going after the quarterback. That was first, and when George Allen became their coach, he really took the reins off and just said, "Go get the quarterback." So anytime it was a passing down, it was just like full throttle. They meet me at the quarterback kind of idea, and it was kind of front to back, where the pressure let the defensive backs, look good because there was so much pressure, and the quarterback had to throw it so quickly.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
Alrighty. And so for my defense, taking a little bit of the not as old as Aaron and his fearsome foursome, and definitely not as new as the Legion of Boom with Royce. Mine's kind of in the more in the 70s, and I think of like whenever you think of like the AFC and dominant teams, this one was known for like its hard hitting, its relentless pursuit of like ball carrier QBs, receivers, and there's even that NFL films kind of saying about talking about like the autumn wind is a raider,
Hmm.
pillaging just for fun, and that's what I'm going with. Going with the Raiders defense. Not going with the front four. I'm going with the secondary, and they would be known as the Soul Patrol. And so, doing my research on these guys, um, the pinnacle of their success was in 1976 with their Super Bowl victory, Super Bowl 11. Not trying to rub
Nice.
anything in, but this is the hallmark of their success because
Yeah.
in the 70s they had made it to six AFC title games, but only one Super Bowl to show for their efforts. Some of it's bad luck, immaculate receptions and all, but for the Raiders, that Super Bowl ring validates everything that they had done in the 70s, I think. And then as far as like the hard hitting aspect and bringing the that swagger, it all starts with their left quarterback, Willie Brown, and that is showcased right here in this 1972 elusive high number tops card number
Oh, cool.
85.
Awesome.
And yeah, he was an all pro, but he was much more than that. Willie Brown. He became the defensive captain in 1969. He went undrafted in 63. Tried out with the with the Oilers, but they ended up cutting him. He signed with the Broncos. They traded him to the Raiders, and he became one of their own, starting in 1967. And like I said, 2 years later, becomes the team captain. He had 54 career interceptions. He had a AFL record back then of 4 interceptions in one game, and
Wow.
his nickname was Old Man Willie. And Royce, you might be familiar with the reason why he got this nickname, right?
No, remind me.
Okay, so Super Bowl 11. Not trying to twist and turn anything in there, but Super Bowl 11, Old Man Willie, he intercepts a Fran Tarkenton pass, and he takes it 75 yards to the house, and the play-by-play radio guy goes, "There goes Old Man Willie, 40, 30, 20, touchdown." So Old Man Willie here, he is the cornerstone of that Soul Patrol.
Yeah.
And now across from him, uh, well, not across from him, but a strong safety that would belong to George Atkinson here, 1973 Topps card. Love this design. Working on
Yeah.
this set, classic design. But yeah, for George Atkinson, he was a strong safety, known for his ferocious hits. Chuck Noll, he said that Atkinson was basically a part of the criminal element, and that led to Atkinson, taking Noel to court and saying like, "Hey, this is defamation of character." Even
Hmm.
though on the football field he was bringing it like hard hitting athlete, but ultimately Atkinson lost the case. But he made up for I guess that court case on the field when he took Lynn Swan and knocked him out of 2 separate games with concussions.
Oof.
Oh yeah,
Ouch.
he would just go with like a forearm shiver and like just take their head off. And so, the 70s were a different beast in the NFL, and receivers weren't really protected very well. And yeah, I mean they would just bring clotheslining and haymakers anytime they were around these defenseless receivers. And Frankinson, he was really brought in. He was drafted. Um, he was drafted I think in the 7th round, but more as like a punt return, kick return specialist.
Hmm.
And so, that's how he made his name first couple of seasons. 1968, he was a co-defensive rookie MVP of the league. And he ended his career with 30 interceptions and 1 season with the Broncos to tie it all off.
Cool.
I have a question. Do you know how much he weighed?
I think he was all of 180 pounds.
Yep. Yep. So he
Yeah,
had that.
they said that he hit harder. He hit like a linebacker. You had referenced that earlier in our conversation about like guys that were bringing size or playing larger than their size. And so, or maybe Royce had mentioned that about one of his guys. But
Cam
yeah,
Chancellor. Yeah.
yeah, he was probably a model, for Chancellor to look up to and say, hey,
Yeah.
this guy can do it. I can bring it too.
Yeah.
Number three in that secondary of the Soul Patrol is none other than Jack
Oh
Tatum,
yeah. Nice.
also known as the Assassin. And that was pre pre Daryl Stingley incident
Hmm.
back in
Yeah.
78 preseason. So yeah, yeah. So Jack Tatum, though, he was known for again those ferocious hits, very aggressive ball hawking kind of player. Apparently, though, he he impacted defenses. With they started doing like that 5 yard rule because of the bump and run defense that the Raiders ran, and Tatum was a big part of that. He won a national title with Ohio State in college. Actually, won 68 and then a shared title with Texas in 70. He was drafted the first overall in the let's see, he was drafted first overall in the first round. He's drafted first round, 19th overall by the Raiders. Here I am mixing up my words, guys. Sorry.
All
Uh,
good.
Three-time Pro Bowler, 37 career interceptions. He held the record for the longest return football, fumbled football for a touchdown with 104 yards. Now that's
Hmm,
been tied since then, but he did that in 1972 against the Packers.
cool.
Yep. So that would be the assassin, Jack Tatum, and then rounding out the Soul Patrol is Skip Thomas,
Nice.
and his nickname is Doctor Death. And he
Wow.
got this nickname because apparently in 1973 there was a movie called Doctor Death, and I guess he resembled the main character in that movie, so his teammates started calling him Doctor Death. Now apparently John Madden never called him Doctor Death, but yeah, he even had it like written on his 1977 Corvette, on the painted on the side with his nickname, and again, Skip Thomas though he was a right cornerback for that Raiders defense. He also got a Super Bowl title. And, he started off his career with the Bills, or at the end, he ended his career with the Bills, but he couldn't pass a physical 78 season. Apparently, he contracted hepatitis, and so that
Hmm.
impacted his preseason, and the Raiders cut him. But overall, again, known for his devastating hits and, again, ball hawking abilities. So for the Soul Patrol, those four secondary members, they were the first in the NFL to have like the Raiders were the first NFL team to have like all four of their secondary all black, like
Hmm.
first time ever. Like the demographics, of the football league, it was changing in the 60s and 70s. And so,
Yeah.
definitely with the Soul Patrol, they kind of, embraced I guess like the cool terms and the disco vibe and that whole Dr. Death thing, the assassin. They try to intimidate, receivers to where they didn't want to, cross their path on the field. Um, and as a result, that they got that nickname, and they also though got the 5 yard rule in place, so that defense is going to just go and maul the receiver with press coverage right off the line and decapitate him, and knock him to the ground or give him a concussion and send him home. But Soul Patrol, they took it personal though, like, hey, you're coming into my house trying to catch the football. You're gonna pay. You're gonna pay a price if you get that reception. And so, they embodied the 70s, the Raiders, and that whole mystique of, that whole organization.
That's cool. Love
Soul
it.
Love it.
Patrol, Fearsome Foursome, Legion of Boom, notable nicknames.
And
Yeah.
there's so
We're gonna
many
take
out
them
there,
next,
but
right?
Yeah.
yeah, if any listeners have any other ones, there's a million of them out there, and we know some of them. But yeah, if any listeners want to put who they would choose as their
Yeah.
defense, that'd be cool to hear about.
Yeah, definitely. We could address it in a future episode of football card guys and talk about notable nickname defenses. I do want to kind of change gears though. I have a question for you guys,
Okay.
and I need your thoughts. So, 2024 came across this card, this Dick Butkus card.
Cool. Yep.
What are your thoughts on these like vintage players on current releases? Like, is that
I
something
look
you
for
all
them.
like about football cards, or is that something that you think should be like, hey, that's should be reserved for only like a legend set from Upper Deck or a retro set? What are y'all thinking?
I like it because you get to see them in action, because a lot of the
Mhm.
early cards were not in action. So you get to see them in their uniform in action. So I like it. And I like having less expensive cards that are legends too, like, hey, I got another Dick Butkus in my Dick Butkus run and it only cost me 50 cents or whatever, So
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I kind of like seeing the old players and new pictures of them I haven't seen.
Do you
Yeah, I
think?
recently picked up a couple Alan Page cards that are of him like running, and most Alan Page cards, he's not in action, from the top 70s era. So I agree. In fact, I try to seek out those. I would rather get a new card of an old player than a new card of a new player. So that's how I look at it.
Interesting. So, do y'all think though that I don't know. I mean, this is card number 51, which is a jersey match.
Cool.
Do y'all think that like these should be like just like either a set for itself, or do you an insert set, or do you like seeing it just kind of mixed in with like the complete set? Or
I
does it
think it'd
even
be kind
matter?
of cool as like a subset,
Yeah,
together.
inset.
Like here's our regular set, and then here's our legends we made this year. Um, that would be kind of cool, and especially for like set builders who are like, okay, I know these guys are going to be at the end or the start or whatever. I like it when card companies organize it and have some semblance of reason. I don't like just like willy-nilly numbers. So that would be kind of nice if it was a little subset. And I do love those like Upper Deck Legends cards or like, the Fleer Greats of the Games cards, stuff like that, where it's a whole, like it's a own set. So if they did something like that, great. But if it's part of like Donruss, you know, chunk them together, I would like that.
Right, like I said, I mean, I just came across this one card. I don't know, I do not know if this 2024 Donruss set, if it's all legend players or if it's just
No,
this is
they kind
one
of do them different.
number 51 out of 300 or
Topps does it different than Panini did. Panini just kind of mixed them throughout, but Topps has kind of set their, especially they had a 2024, I forget what it's called, started with the R, like something like Relics or something like that, where they had a big, like a run of 100 guys from the previous eras that they put all together in the number run. And
Mhm.
then they did the regular set and then the rookie set. So I kind of like the way Topps does it better than Panini.
well, thinking back to 30 years ago, 25 years ago with Fleer Greats of the Game and the Upper Deck Legends, have there been other I guess complete sets of just vintage old school football players that y'all know of?
Yeah, they had those swell sets. Those were more like Hall of Fame sets in the late 80s, early 90s. And I really like those actually, because
Yeah,
then you learn about guys you never would have heard about from the 30s and 40s and stuff like that. So it was called Swell, and then one year they called it ENOR. I don't know what it stands for, but they had a lot of the same pictures and a lot of the same
yeah, as the swell
players
did.
as the
Yeah,
Swell sets. Um, and then they did have one in 1975. Fleer made the Immortal Roll, which was also Hall of Famers, and they were like a bigger tall boy type card. And that's the first Hall of Fame set we saw, and we started
yeah.
learning about Hall of Fame players that we'd never heard of.
And
Um,
you got to show some off next time if
yeah,
you got them from your childhood collection. I've never even heard of that, man. I'd like
Those
to
are
learn
cool.
more.
They're
yeah,
really
those are
cool.
very cool. I'll bring a couple next time, but I really like them. They are a little big, so you have to have a separate box or something for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're pretty cool, and I think the Hall of Fame started in 63 or 66, something like that. So it doesn't have a lot of the, players that were inducted after that, after 1975. But
Yeah.
some of the very old, beginning players.
I do like the
Let me wrap it
legends.
up and ask y'all one other quick question about
Oh, sure.
like
Yeah.
today's collector, the younger folks. Let's say that they're in their teens, 20s. Let's say that they buy this new Topps Chrome football blaster or whatever it is or box. Do you think when they pull an autograph of, let's say, a Fran Tarkenton, do you think that those collectors do they, unless they're Vikings collectors, do they get excited about it?
I think they may get excited about the resale value. I don't think they're excited for the player. And that's I think for me the difference between a true hobbyist and a investor collector is the love of the game, of the actual game. So I watch a lot of pack opening videos, and literally, if it's a base card, no matter who it's of, if it's Fran Tarkenton, Bubba Smith, it doesn't
I
matter who
mean,
it
that
is.
is,
It can
yeah.
be Hall of Famer, it doesn't matter. They'll just throw it to the side. They're looking for the color and the X factor and the insets, the kabooms and all those downtowns, things like that, that if it's not one of those, they're literally just throwing it to the side like it's garbage. And I that frustrates me watching it because I'm like, oh, you just missed Dan Fouts, like so I think it's a bit sad because they're missing the true talent that they're going through. I think we've probably talked about that before, that I think if you're a true football fan, you're pausing on each card and taking a good look at it and saying, "Ooh, this guy's what has he done? Like, where's he from?" Even if, like for me, the Immortal Roll set from 75 that we as kids, we didn't know those players until we really looked at the cards and read the backs of the cards and get to learn these players because they were from before our era. So I think it was for us, it was a great way to learn the history of football.
Yeah. And I think like if a young person is into history or into learning the early parts of the game, they might, but a lot of kids aren't. I have a student at my school, he loves the Seahawks, just nuts about the Seahawks. So I'll give him cards, if he meets his goals or whatever. And, I brought in some Steve Largent cards and he's like, who cares? He wants the current team only. Uh, and I'm like, even like Legion of Boom type cards, he's like, eh. And then, but if it's current, he's like,
Hmm.
oh, I want that guy. But yeah, like, Steve Largent doesn't matter. Even though I'm like, this is the best player in their whole entire history.
Yeah.
He could give two shakes. So it is kind of depends on the person. And I started really liking history, and then like a Don Hudson card to me is really interesting because he was ahead of his time. He set all the records for receivers. Now I'm like a big Don Hudson fan, where as a kid, I didn't know who this guy was. He's from the 40s, but now I super appreciate him.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, guys, certainly this was an excellent episode. I enjoyed partnering up with y'all. I want to do this some more. Football card guys, talking football, talking cards. Royce, do you have anything you'd like to conclude with?
No, just thanks for having us, Kelly. This is always fun. I do have if anybody's into the USFL, keep watching my Viking Wax Press YouTube channel because I've got a YouTube video that I'm hoping to put out within the next 2 weeks of some old 80s USFL stuff. I kind of made my own digital cards and I'm gonna show those off. Superheroes of the USFL. So
That will be awesome.
yeah.
And Aaron, how about you? Any closing thoughts or remarks you'd like to share out?
No, not really. I just would love to hear from anybody and their defenses they can remember and why they like that defense.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, till next time, guys, take care and we'll do it to it.